Did you know that more than 70% of medical school matriculants take at least one gap year? Now, if you're thinking about rushing straight from undergrad to medical school, pause for a second. Today, we're going to take a deep dive on when and why you should consider taking a gap year, the real stats for MD and DO programs, and why applying too early can hurt your chances of getting into medical school. Hey everyone, this is Montemed. Welcome back to my channel. I'm currently a third-year medical student, and I love diving into data, and I can't wait for today's video. Let's get right into it. In 2022, over 70% of students starting medical school took at least one gap year before matriculating. This trend has been growing over the years, and it's not because students are slacking off. It is because medical school has been getting harder and harder every single year to get in, and the requirements and the standards just keep rising. This is not because students have been slacking off. It's actually quite the contrary. The average statistics for applicants has been on the rise over the past decade, and this only suggests that students have been working harder, they've been getting smarter about taking the standardized tests, and are getting higher GPAs. This just makes the application process more complicated year by year, which is why students often take gap years to make their application more competitive and improve their stats before applying. You're not at all behind if you're taking a year or two off. You're actually part of the majority now. A lot of my classmates are in their 30s. This is especially true if you attend an osteopathic program, as there have been trends of them accepting more non-traditional students. That being said, the non-traditional might be becoming the new traditional. So how do you know if a gap year is right for you? Here are some signs. Your GPA or MCAT is not where you want it to be, and we'll be diving into the numbers here below. Feel that your extracurriculars may be on the lighter end, maybe you have not done enough clinical work, research, or don't have very much leadership, or you're just feeling rushed about your application and need time to prep it properly. Set the stage for some real data and numbers. For MD programs, the average applicant has a 3.66 GPA and a 506.1 MCAT. Those who actually matriculate into MD programs have an average of 511.8 MCAT and a 3.73 GPA. These numbers have just been on the rise over the past decades. DO programs have slightly lower academic averages. Applicants come in with a 502 MCAT and a 3.58 GPA, with the average matriculant having a 503.5 MCAT and a 3.61 GPA. These differences are something to consider when you're applying to medical schools, but don't just apply DO if you have low stats, and don't just apply MD if you have high stats. There's so many other factors that go into the process, and there are people with 515 MCATs at DO schools and people with 500 MCATs at MD schools. Just make sure the mission of the school, the atmosphere, and their philosophy matches with you and your application. Next, we're going to talk about how applying prematurely can actually backfire. Here's something that people don't talk enough. You don't want to rush your application. You don't want to apply to medical school before you're truly ready. For example, according to AAMC's Table 23, if you have below a 500 MCAT and below a 3.5 GPA, you have less than 10% chance of getting in. Check out my video about all the statistics for more details on this. If your MCAT and your GPA are not competitive yet, you're starting off with a weaker application. It does not make it impossible, but you're on a steeper slope essentially. Admissions committees notice trends, and a very low first attempt can overshadow improvements later, potentially indicating that you were not ready and you just kind of rushed your application and you were not patient enough. Two, reapplying is tough. It is a mental toll, the entire application process. It's a roller coaster. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of self-doubt, imposter syndrome. You don't have to go through that more than once if you don't have to. And if you get rejected and have to reapply to medical school, your new application has to show real and substantial change. Otherwise, you might be at an even bigger disadvantage. Three, you might be just wasting your resources. Applications cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars and take months of effort. If you're not ready, that's a huge financial burden and an emotional hit that you're going to be taking. Four is lost momentum. A rejection can be really demoralizing and drain your enthusiasm. People may turn away from medicine if they get rejected from medical schools the first time. Taking a gap here to really understand yourself, your application, and making sure you're a competitive applicant can pay dividends. This is why it is so important that you take a step back and really be honest and realistic with your application and utilize some of the data that is available in gauging how competitive of an applicant you really are. Okay, now let's talk about how you make that gap year count. If academics were the problem, here's what you can do. Do a post-bac program, and this is perfect if you need to retake science courses or improve your GPA. There are also special master's programs which can show medical schools that you can handle the rigor of the coursework that takes. Often you'll be sitting alongside current medical students in their pre-clerkship courses. And this is a great way to boost your GPA, but also open doors for new recommendation letters. If your MCAT is truly low, please take the time to retake it properly. A lot of people rush the MCAT. I did that my first time. I would not wish anyone to have to take the MCAT more than once if they don't have to. Give yourself a real chance of getting a high score the first time. Just get it over with, one and done. Using a gap year for experience and personal growth. This is something, as a traditional student myself, as someone who went directly from undergrad to medicine, this is something I consider and think about sometimes. Seeing classmates that are well into their 30s potentially change careers, real life experience is something I lack compared to these individuals. Gap years are not just about grades, they're really about personal growth and exploring yourself and world essentially. Take the time to volunteer in clinics, hospitals, nonprofits, chat with physicians in different specialties, dive into research, even if it's just a summer project. It really shows your curiosity and your willingness to take the extra step. Most importantly, don't forget to explore. This gap year is a time you might not see this amount of freedom in your life at a later stage. So travel, work in a different field, develop a new passion, really make these experiences in time count. And this can really make your personal statement in your story and your interviews stand out. In this section, we'll talk about why you might not need a gap. Of course, if you're already at these averages with the MCAT and the GPA, and if you think you have great clinical research and leadership experiences, you may be ready to apply now. Don't feel pressure to delay if you truly feel prepared. You won't have to take a gap year, even though that's becoming the trend. If you're able to prove to medical schools that medicine is truly what you want, have a story for why you want to be a doctor that comes across as genuine, you may be ready to apply now, as long as you have all the other factors on your application that are strong. But if you're unsure, taking gap year can really polish your application and make all the difference. Here's what I want you to remember. There may be a notion online and across with some people that gap years are wasted years. Let me tell you right now, gap years are not wasted years. There are many traditional applicants that wish that have taken a gap year. Don't rush your application. Don't go in half prepared, and this can really set you back a lot more than you might think. If you're below these average stats, if your story is not fully formed yet, take a step back and consider that gap year. If you took a gap year, let me know what you did on your gap year in the comments below. I'm curious to hear about it. I've heard some fascinating stories from some of my peers. If you like the video, like the video. If you dislike the video, dislike the video. If you have comments or any questions, I can't wait to hear them in the comments below. If you could subscribe, that'd be great. It's been Montuben. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the next one.